Hey guys, what's up? I don't want to waste your time, so I'm going to try and keep this simple and efficient. If at any point you feel like you're sold on Homestuck, just skip to the last section of the video called How to Read Homestuck, because it's best experience going in as blindly as possible. Okay. Homestuck is a webcomic written by Andrew Hussey that ran from 2009 to 2016. It tells the story of a group of internet friends who play a video game called Sburb that allows them to edit and manipulate each other's real-life houses like it's The Sims, which also inadvertently starts the apocalypse. The reason you should read Homestuck is that it's free, and you'll probably really like it, because most people who actually give it a shot do. It has great characters, fascinating lore and systems, a unique plot and use of its medium, and it's just consistently hilarious. Homestuck is just chock full of terrific characters. Pretty much every character is somebody's favorite, since they all have unique personalities, interesting and generally fulfilling arcs, and tons of dialogue that's generally funny in one way or another. The main cast are all amazingly written, but even the side characters get fleshed out to a pretty satisfying degree. A good balance is maintained, though, so don't worry if you end up not liking someone that much. As Sburb and the comic itself progress, heavy adventure, RPG, and science fantasy elements get introduced, as well as an alchemy-based crafting system that allows you to combine the form of one object with the properties of another, and a character class system that assigns you superpowers based on your personality and thematic role. There's alien species with fleshed-out cultures and societies, interplanetary politics, stable time shenanigans, personalized game worlds, and a general atmosphere of traditional gaming illusions and pop culture references that place the comics world within the contemporary American zeitgeist, while still feeling totally unique and new. It sounds like a lot to handle, but it's all introduced in a digestible yet mysterious way that always keeps you interested and engaged. Homestuck is a webcomic, but it's not going to read anything like your typical Big 2 comics, creator-owned comics, manga, or even any other webcomics, at least those that aren't influenced by Homestuck themselves. It's a multimedia combination of art, prose, script, animation, and video game, presented on a mostly linear page-by-page basis. The only thing it can really be compared to is John Boyce's fantastic 17776, but even that is pretty different. Homestuck's writing style is inspired by old text adventure games, so it's written in a second-person perspective, utilizing commands that a quote-unquote player of the Homestuck video game might input to control the characters. These are more a function of the narrative structure than the story itself, and you'll get used to the way it all works relatively quickly. For example, each of the characters has a unique inventory that is really just a part of the comics universe and not Sburb itself, although the two certainly do interact. Thematically, Homestuck is just a story about what it's like to be a kid and grow up. It deals with the evolution of you and your friends' personalities and relationships over time, learning to understand your sexuality, gaining new perspective on your parents and guardians as you transition into adulthood, dealing with childhood trauma, forging new relationships, and generally just dealing with the strange emotional experience that is growing into yourself. And it handles these topics with a perfect balance of the comedic and the dramatic. The comic is full of match-cut transitions, cinematic parallels, meta-narrative devices, and self-referential callbacks that all serve to tie everything together and strengthen narrative cohesion, similar to your Watchmen's and your Pulp Fictions. Other things it kind of reminds me of include Lost, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Fooly Cooly, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and Undertale, all for different reasons. Fun fact, Toby Fox actually contributed a bunch of music to Homestuck before he made Undertale. Anyway, I think there's a lot to love in Homestuck, so much more than I even mentioned here, mainly for spoiler reasons. Although it's not without elements that some may see as flaws, it is extremely influential, and by far my favorite work of fiction ever created, so I hope something I mentioned here piqued your interest in reading it. If that is, in fact, the case, then you're probably wondering how you even go about reading it. With Homestuck having an official but non-canon epilogue and sequel, as well as lots of spin-off games and comics, it's important to define what I actually mean when I say reading Homestuck. I am referring only to the original Homestuck comic itself, as well as the short in-universe spin-off comic Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, which is useful for understanding some of the gags in Homestuck, but can really be knocked out whenever you'd like. I suggest checking it out sometime around when you first hear of it in Homestuck proper. Both of those two things, along with lots of optional goodies, can be found in the author-endorsed unofficial Homestuck collection, which is not only the best way to read the comic currently, but also the best way that has ever existed for new readers to experience Homestuck. The collection can be installed on Windows, Mac, and Linux computers, and comes in two parts: the app itself, which lets you read Homestuck, and the asset pack, which contains all the files that make up the comic. The website that I've linked in the description has the download links for both, as well as very simple and understandable instructions on how to download and set up the collection on your computer. I cannot stress enough how much I recommend the collection to anyone who wants to read Homestuck, but if you only have access to a Chromebook, mobile device, or a similar kind of computer, you can also read it online over at homestuck.com. Due to the decline of Flash and the handling of the website by Viz Media after purchasing Homestuck, the website is a bit buggy and might never get fully fixed, but if that's your only option, it should get the job done for you in most instances. Both options are totally free. Fair content warning: there's a lot of swearing, as well as a fair amount of violence, albeit in a very stylized, non-photorealistic way. Characters also infrequently use the R slur, and there are occasions in which characters are ableist to other characters, although I feel the latter is portrayed as a bad thing. I highly recommend you experience the comic in its original form, but if those kinds of things are deal breakers for you, I've linked an alternate version of the asset pack that revises these things in the description, although I have not personally used it, so I cannot vouch for it firsthand. Also, you can't skip the intermission, and you can't skip to the trolls. Everything becomes important eventually. No matter what, I thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy your experience reading Homestuck.